Oh, welcome back to another tutorial. Yet another one. I'm kind of liking these. Did already the C++, jump from programming language to the HTML for the web. And then we did CSS. And as promised, now we're starting with PHP. Uh, uh, Personal homepage is what PHP stands for. And this is the introduction to PHP. Now, PHP is I call it a scripting language. It's a language that it's a programming language nonetheless, but it's on the server side. So there's a couple of ways to run this. Many people think it's only for the web, and I will be concentrating on the website doing things for in PHP. But make no mistake, this is a very powerful programming language. I mean, WordPress, Facebook, they have implementations in PHP, and we're talking big companies here. So PHP is very, very powerful. Now, because I'm going to be doing this on a Mac, and I'm going to be doing this on my. I want to be able to show this on my computer. Uh, I'm going to be using an emulator for my PHP. I could always upload files to a server and have them run, but I didn't want to do that. I want to be something more hands-on. The other thing that I need to do consider is that there are some things that are not available when you do it through the web. And right off the back, I'm thinking of readline. Readline is a way to input data from the user, right? I mean, we use like get ch in C++ or read line, or in Pascal or whatever, you or input in basic. So you have a way to interact with the user. In When you're doing this through the web, the interaction is a little bit different. Now, there is way to input data straight into PHP, ask a user, hey, give me a number, give me a name, and do something with it. Uh, but it's a standalone application, not through a web-based application. When it's through the web, you gotta use forms. So with that said, for this introduction, obviously I'm gonna go through the basics of doing our first program. Everything will be through the web, but I'm using an emulator, and I'll be using HTML. I will be using a little bit of CSS, not too much, because I don't want to concentrate on CSS because we already had a whole tutorial on CSS. If you want to do all CSS, I strongly encourage you to watch my tutorial on CSS. And this is on PHP, right? I'm going to be covering on this first part. We're going to be covering numeric types, strings, integers, floats, and all that, booleans, bool, and we also going to be covering operators, and logical operators. So, they will be important for part two eventually, but I will cover the operators right now: how to add, subtract, how to compare numbers or strings, and what have you, doing ands and ors and all of that. I will cover all that in this tutorial. And we also going to be doing, like I said, some basic math, if you will. Um, so, and we're covering the built-in string and number functions. Not all of them. I don't make that promise because it's just way too many, and I don't use them all. To be honest, I'm gonna give you an example of some of the most common built-in string and number functions, and hopefully, if there are one out there that I don't cover, but you probably would need, little search on Google will probably give you the answer, how to use it and all that. Um, and and some of the stuff will be used for part two when I get into decision making and arrays and all that, because part two will be creating your functions and also decision making, if else, the switch and arrays and things like that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this first part of the tutorial. I'll be using Whisk, and I will introduce you to Whisk in a few seconds, and everything will be on the screen. You'll be able to see as I'm doing things on the screen. So it should be fun. Hopefully you will learn something. Um, Anyways, I really hope you do. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, folks, so here we are. As I mentioned, I'm using Whisk, W-H-I-S-K. It's an emulator for my Macintosh. I'm using version 2, I believe. And PHP will work by itself. That one thing I'm going to show you here is I know I can do, this is how you start PHP programs, by the way. Put a less than and question mark PHP, and you ended up with a question mark, and everything you put in between is considered as PHP. In PHP, you print with the word echo. You can do print as well, but echo is the standard. And I can do things like hello world, a semicolon, right? And here it is, hello world. In Whisk, you can do the preview in HTML or in PHP. Obviously, you have to be in PHP for it to see this. But here's hello world, and this is how I would show hello world. If I wanted this in a header, I mean, I can do something like H2, and then obviously finish my H2. And now it's a hello world with heading level 2 in HTML. Now, you can embed HTML within PHP within HTML. That's one of the coolest things you can do. That's why I said it's at the server level, but I can do something like HTML, and I can do lang equals en, of course, and I can do comments. This is a comment in HTML, right? It's ignored. I can do my head and slash head. And if I wanted this formatted, I guess I can do this, right? I can do my title. My first PHP program. Close it. If I wanted to, I can do styles. I do style. I do H2, color red, text align, center, right? And then I can do slash style. And you notice how it automatically centered it and made it red. See, I can do styles. Here, obviously, I would do my body. And my slash body and slash HTML. There we go. And this is what a web page would look for PHP. Now, you notice that, I mean, I can do the PHP by itself, or I can do the HTML. If you're doing it on a desktop, I can do either one. If you're doing it over the internet, obviously you want the HTML. And the reason I make this comparison because it works both ways. I'll be concentrating in most of my samples. In fact, most all of them, if not most of them. I was gonna say I'll venture to say all of my examples will be in this format because I'm embedding my PHP in HTML, and this is something that you were to upload to your server. It will work just fine without any problems. Now, one of the cool things about this is I can do multiple things. I can do here H2. This is, in fact, I'm going to do H1. This is PHP 101, right? I had not formatted H1 with the style, only H2, so that's why it shows right there. I can do this. And then I can do, this is a paragraph, blah, blah, blah. And then do again PHP. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do echo 23 plus 42 equals, and in when you're using the echo command, the dot right here, the dot is how you concatenate. Now, if you're gonna notice that it says here parse error, syntax error, okay, don't worry about this. As long as I haven't finished my line, it will do this. I can tell Wix could not execute anything until I tell it to, but so that's okay. I can do echo, then I can do 23 plus 42, and I can concatenate a break. And semicolon, right? And after this, I need to do my so there you go. So you can notice that I'm mixing HTML, PHP, HTML, and PHP again. So I can do PHP on a line per line basis, or I can do PHP and just include in the middle everything. Doesn't matter. And you notice how I put in quotes 23 plus 42 equals, and then I'm putting 23 plus 42, which is 65, right? This is a paragraph, and then PHP echo 23 plus 42 equals. So pretty easy stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and do something here. Semicolon, and I'm gonna do this echo and do that. How about that? And now it actually says 23 plus 42 equals 65. I got my first echo right there, and then my second echo over here. So this is the most basic form of doing a hello world. And you can see that I can embed within my HTML, my PHP, I can do line by line, or I can do a block of code in my PHP. And this is the resulting screen. I'm gonna now talk a little bit about variables. In PHP, all variables start with a $, and it is a smart language. You don't need to do like we would do in C++ or any other language. You got to tell it if it's an integer, if it's a string, a character, boolean. I mean, you have to tell it what kind of a type of variable it is, primarily because it needs to secure the data, the number of bytes that it's going to hold for each one of the variables. And then an address, right? A memory address, like you do in C++ for the pointers. But here you don't have to do that. So I'm going to make a modification to this. I'm going to change that to a 2. Now it'll center that. I'm going to get rid of this. And now I'm strictly in PHP here now. So I'm going to define some variables. I'm going to do variable A. And by the way, it is case sensitive. So, this is a string. All right. $B will be, I don't know, it could be 14, I guess. $C can be a float, so I'm going to 3.14. It's a close value to pi, even though not as pi as well. And $D will be equal to true because it's Boolean. And in PHP, a comment is done with a double /. So string, integer, float, Boolean. So far, it's not going to print anything because I'm only defining the variables. Now I can display out different data types in PHP. There you go. Echo $A, $sign A, right? So before I do this, I need to concatenate here. Because I have this BR. Different types of data. This is a string. And the reason why I say this is a string is because A right here is this. And I'm going to do here something. I'm going to add break. Now I'm going to echo $B. And remember, it's case sensitive, so capital B. Echo $C. And finally, echo. You're going to see this one a little bit different. It says number 1. And there it is. Now, the reason why I put the number 1 is because in PHP, the number 1 is for true and the number 0 is for false. So these are the different data types. There are more. This is just an example. What I really want to show here is they all start with $sign and a letter, and it is case sensitive. If I put the letter B lowercase here, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. It is case sensitive. So you have to be very careful with this, with the if you use lowercase and uppercase. On the other hand, you don't have to declare something to be a specific. It's the moment you put a bat, it automatically knows it's an integer, it's a float. You know, everything is being done at the server side. I'm using an emulator, but don't worry about that. There are some things that might not work the same on my browser and my computer because I'm not using a server here. I would have to use the terminal, and I don't want to use that, at least not right now. Maybe I'll use it maybe a little bit later in another part of the tutorial, just to demonstrate the differences. But the Macs come automatically with PHP that way. I'm going to open up terminal just to show you, I can do PHP B, and then it tells me the version. I got 8113, right? This is the version that I have of my PHP. But again, I don't want to use the terminal part. I want to use Whisk because it's more friendlier on the eye. I got 3 examples that I want to share with you, but I already pre-typed them because they were a little long. This is the first one, and this is the arithmetic, logical, and comparison things that you can do in PHP. And I'll start with the arithmetic. Obviously, I have my double slash right here, so this is a comment, and I'm echoing what it is. So arithmetic. So again, $sign. I got 1 and 2, 1 plus 2, and I'm saying 1 plus 2 equals, and then I put the 3, right? Because this is the 3. 3 equals 1 plus 2, and that's this right here. 1 plus 2 equals 3. And I'm using very simple numbers. I just want to show you what it can do. If you want to subtract, again, if I1 equals 3 and I2 equals 2, and I subtract them, I would get 3 minus 2 equals 1 right there. Now I want to multiply them. You multiply with the asterisk, and you're going to notice that most of these symbols, most of the symbols that we use, are similar to other languages. We use the plus, the minus, the asterisk to multiply, the slash to divide. Here's my division. I'm going to divide 6 by 2, right? 3 divided by 2, I'm sorry. And I'm going to get a value, right? I'm going to get a value. 6 divided by 3 is 3. This here is 6. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. I don't know why I put a 1. But you notice that as I'm doing changes, it automatically does them over here. And then we have the modulus. I got to be honest, folks. I don't think I've ever used this right here, except for one thing. if I want to know if something is odd or even. If you want to know if something is odd or even, that is the best way to know is to divide, and your modulus is 1 or 0. But other than that, I don't think I've ever used modulus. It's kind of funny because on every programming language in my life that I've seen it, they always include modules, all the way from the GW Basic, uh, Turbo Pascal, Turbo C++. I mean, yeah, I'm talking ages when I started doing programming, and modules was there incredibly. But anyways, that's what it does. The remainder. So 7 divided by 2 is 3 with a 1 remainder. That's what the modulus is. I am used to doing the little caret. That's what this is called, the little like a greater than but pointing up, to do the exponential thing, to the power of. But in PHP, you use a double asterisk. So 2 to the 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, right? 2 times itself that number of times. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So you would do that with a double asterisk. I put this symbol here because that's how I know it myself. But this is what you use, the double asterisk. And now we do the cumulative formulas. The first time I used these were in C++, I believe, because I didn't do C, I jumped straight to C++. And from Pascal, I went to C++. And I remember when I saw them the first time, because that's not something you would use in Pascal, nor Basic, GW Basic back then, or Quick Basic, nor Turbo Basic, none of them. You didn't have this. So to me, they were new, but they're very cool, So here, I don't need a third variable. I say if I1 equals 2 and I2 equals 3. Now I'm doing I1 plus equal 2, and I'm adding it to itself. So 2 plus equals 3 equals 5. And that's what I have right here, right? So the plus equal adds to that same variable. And of course, you can do a subtract equal, a multiply equal, and a divide equal, right? So instead of using a third variable, like I was doing up here, I was saying, instead of saying C equals A plus B, I'm doing A plus equals B. So now A equals the adding of A and B. So I'm going to erase this only because of the spacing, because I want to see that. But in fact, I'll leave the plus, but I'm going to take the subtract, multiply, and division and modulus out. I'm going to delete them. And something like that. So now I can see the remainder of my text. Actually, I'm going to get rid of all of this all the way to this. There we go. Perfect. I just want to leave that. And now we're going to jump into my logical. So here's my echo with my H2s inside. There's my logical operators. And just like any other higher language, just about any language nowadays, you have your ors, your ands. So a couple of things to note here. I'm saying A, capital B, is 0 and 1. Don't worry about the values for now. I'm just displaying them right here. So here's A and B. That right there is this, okay? That's it, nothing else. In PHP, like in just about all the other languages, a double ampersand means and, a double bar means or. This is the not, the not equal to, I'm sorry, not equal to. And this is the XOR. When you have an and, everything that you compare must be a 1, a true, in order for it to continue. So if A equals 0 and B equals 1, that means, and the double equal sign equals, it's how you compare. This is a comparison. So if this equals this and this equals this, then we got a true. Okay. Here is or. If this is true and or this is true. I don't care which one of the two. As long as one of them is true, do it. You know, think about it in the end when it says you end, like um, if it's open in a restaurant and you have money, you can buy food. So you have to have both. The place has to be open and you have to have food. Either one is not. If it's not open, you cannot buy food. If you have no money, you cannot buy food. And if obviously neither one are true, then you definitely cannot buy food. On the or, I'm saying, look, uh, if the restaurant is open and or actually that restaurant would not work for the or, but anyways, and the or is either one is true. So I can say something like, if one happens or the other one happens. Oh, I know. And we'll use the restaurant again. If Steve comes to buy food or John comes to buy food, then I can sell them food. Either one comes in, boom, it works. Otherwise, obviously, they both literally would have to not go into the restaurant to not sell the food, right? So it's true on all instances except if both are false. Uh, the not equal to is basically the opposite. So if you have one, the opposite will be zero. If you have zero, the opposite will be one. If it's not a boy, that means it's a girl, right? If it's not open, then it's closed. So that's how that would work for comparison. And then you have your XOR. Now, notice how I have the exclamation point right here. I'm going to go over this very slowly. First of all, I'm saying if A equal to 0, is A equal to 0? Sure it is. Is B equal to 1? Yeah, it is. So both of them are 1, but this is an XOR. XOR is a special logical operator that gives you true except if they're both true. Except if they're both true. So if they're both true, then it becomes false. But I'm doing the little exclamation point, so I'm doing the opposite. The opposite of XOR is the opposite, which is true. Otherwise, it would have told me false. Okay, so not A equals 0 or B equals 1. Not A equals 0 or B equals 1. X or B equals 1. So XOR is a little bit hard to explain with examples because it's only practical in math, to be honest. It actually in electronics and engineering, engineers use this a lot, especially when it comes to AND gates and NOT gates and XOR gates and all that. But trust me, you're hardly ever going to use this, but there might be that one time when you need it and it's going to be there, special circumstance. Then we have obviously the comparison. In the comparison, I already used the double equal sign. I already told you 2 equals means equal, one equal to the other. We also have the less than and the greater than. The less than is pretty obvious. If 3 is less than 5, then it's a true. Otherwise, it's a false. Or I can do the less than or equal to. If something, let's say A equals 5. If A, and then I'm saying B equals 5. If one is less than or equal to the other, then it's true. So they're comparing things. Equal, less than, greater than or equal to. Obviously, I can have the less than or equal to. And in among this is also the not, the exclamation point. So these are all the comparison. In fact, I'm going to put in here, before I do anything else, I'm going to put echo comparison are equal, not equal, not greater, greater than equal, less, less than or equal, and I'm going to add my break. So there it is. Now, finally, on this particular example, I have here the biggest. This is a special. This is actually something also I saw for the first time in C++. The biggest number is, and if you have variables A and B, here's A is 0 and B is 1. And I'm making my comparison, right there. I'm doing, actually my comparison is right here, but the actual one is right there, the question mark. I'm saying, look, I'm gonna echo this, but then after that is gonna be this if it's true, or this if it's true. And obviously the one that's true is B. So it's always gonna do a one. I'm going to erase all of these. I'm going to erase all of this. Actually, I'm going to erase all of that. Here we go. And I'm going to put in 5. I'm going to put in 12, 112. See, it automatically does. What if I want to put 511? See, now it changes to 511. See, because of this question mark here, I'm telling you, this is a special function, if you will. And I'm not even sure if it's called a function where you tell it, look, compare something, do something, but then give me, instead of doing an if else, do these two. And if else's, by the way, I'll be covering part 2 of the tutorial. But for now, just think of this. Either do this one or do that one, depending on which one is, if it's true or false. And that's it. That is it. Okay. Close that. Is this the same one? Nope, this is the strings. That's my PHP one. I can erase that one. No, I don't want to save it. So these are my string functions, and I pre-typed this because it was a little long. I'm going to go over it step by step, though. Here is my styles for color red. I can do what do you call it? Oh, I blanked out. Now I'll leave it at red. I'm actually going to call it blue. There we go. Some string functions, blah. Okay, so string 1 is, this is the first string. String 2 is, this is the second string. String 3 is the hello world. $sign country is the United States. Population is 360, and total is 1234.56. So those are my variables that I'm using so far. Echo string 1 and string 2. This is the first string. This is the second string. And in here, in between, you see that BR? So it's going from one line to the other. That's what this is. Then we have a function. I'm going to get rid of, well, I'll leave that one there. Then we have a function, chop. Chop will get from string 1, and I'm looking for a string. And it chop basically, it does exactly what it says. It chops the end for whatever I have in the second parameter here, which is the word string. If I only do ing, see, it would put an str right there. So there we go. So we go. So I'm going to do string. This is the first. So chop cuts to the right. It is, I don't want to say identical, but it's an alternative to R trim, because there is an R trim. There's an L trim, and there's an R trim, and there's a trim. And if you're familiar with any other language of programming, like from basic Pascal and C or whatever, you can always cut to the left, to the right, or cut in general. And that's what chop does. I put chop instead of R trim because it was different. And they use chop a lot more in PHP than they use trim, R trim. Okay. Echo CHR55, it does exactly what you're thinking. It puts the character on number 65, which is capital A. I can do 065. This is the octal, one of this, base 8, and then number 5 will be in base 8. Or if I do a 0x and then the number, this is a hexadecimal. So hexadecimal 65 is the lowercase letter e. So that's what that CHR does, CHR. It puts in the parameter inside can be decimal, octal, or hexadecimal. You can also do chunk split. And you notice what it did. It puts in this slash, this parameter. This is the string that I got, hello world. In every one character, it puts that little slash right there. If instead of a slash, I do a dash, hello world. See right here. That's what that does. We also have the function count characters. It does exactly what you think it is, but in a very weird way. When I first started doing PHP and I wanted, I don't really have a practical use for counting characters. So I was like, oh, it's going to tell me that, for string 2, it's going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it didn't do that. Look at this. This is what I get. Now you're probably thinking, what is that? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It is all of the characters that are used without repeating any of the characters. It tells me what characters are being used without repeating any of the characters. That's what with the parameter 3 here does, the number 3. Okay. Printf. If you know C or C++ and some other languages out there, you're probably familiar with printf. It's formatted print and then formatted string. And in C++, you do this, you put the little percentage where it's in this case, the D, and over here is the S, and you can do I's, it's just exactly works just like in C++. You put in your line of text, and wherever you put this little symbols, percentage S, percentage D, you put a comma, and then you put in a value that will replace that as well. So if you have a table, it's perfect for that. In this case, $D will be my population, which is 360, and then $S, which is a string, will be the country, United States. The outcome is this: there's 360 million people living in the United States, because I'm using there is population, million people living in the country. There it is, right there. And I have echo for a break. This here, in order for you to use the money format, you gotta do the set locale. This is you do need it. Just leave it at that. I don't want to say it's mandatorily obligatory to do, but you have to use this so it knows where you are, because we are in a world where you can use this everywhere in the world. So they want to make sure, in my case is the United States. The moment I do this, now when I do my money format, it automatically knows what format it is, which is US dollar 1235.56. Or what I end up doing also, an alternative, it's to put the $sign, I did that. Then I did number format, and I put my total, number of decimals, period, and comma. And it automatically did this right there. The ordinary number of, it gives you the ASCII value of the first letter. If it's only a letter, it does that. If it's a string, of the first letter of the string. So in this case, it's 84 for capital S. This is string 1 for the capital T. I'm sorry, for capital T is 84. Obviously, the repeat, not 20 dashes. There it is right there. Word count. Now this actually does count the words. So for string 2, which was this, there was 5 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there we go. And of course, we got our 2 lowers or 2 uppers. This is the first string. This is the first. The same thing, but in uppercase or lowercase. These are some of the built-in functions in PHP. There's way more, okay? And I may use some more in upcoming parts of this tutorial, upcoming episodes. But for now, this is the ones that I'm sticking to. I don't want to include, I just want to give you a intro to look, there's this in PHP. All right. Now let's go into the math part of, and there is a bunch of math formulas, built-in functions and what have you, but I want to put in the most common ones. Here I got $I5. We agree that it did automatically a $sign for a variable, and I just made that up and then put the value 5, so it automatically knows it's an integer and it's of type int, right? So don't worry about the if function right now. We're going to cover that on my next tutorial part 2. For now, there is a function called isInt right there, isInt, and the parameter inside, if it's an integer, it gives me a true. If not, it gives me a false. I made sure that it was an int, obviously, so because I wanted to print. So instead of putting a number 1, so because you in Boolean is number 1 is true, I wanted to put the word I is int. So if is int, echo is int, and that's why it says I is int right there. For the float, I did the same thing. I made sure that f was 5.7. I made sure it was a float, and then I told it if it's float, here's my function with the parameter, then print it as float, and that's right there. Okay, so I purposely did that. I don't want to discuss the if statement at this point. I will do it in my next tutorial coming up, but for now, know that that is a true statement, and therefore it will print what type of variable there is. We also have the pi. This is the function right here, pi in parentheses, and look at all the numbers you get: 3.1415965353898. That's pretty good. I mean, we know that you can get millions of numbers for pi, right? We know that, but knowing that it's a pretty decent number, and not the 3.1416, it's the 3.139268. So it's a pretty big number of decimals. It's reasonable, right? It's like a double, if you will. That's pretty good. We have the function square root. Here's the square root, sqrt. Obviously, it gives me a good number of decimals right there. It's a very good number of decimals. So PHP is pretty good about that. Obviously, we have the absolutes. Here it is. Obviously, it's always a positive. Then we have the power. And remember, we have the option of, I'm going to do that right here. Echo 2 to 5. And there it is. Just because I don't want it to. There's 32. So you notice that 32 is 32, the same thing. So you can do POW, or you can use the double asterisk. The double asterisk is something I saw in PHP that is here. This is how you normally do it in most other programming languages. And finally, we have the ability to convert numbers to decimals. Many times you say like, oh, what is the binary of this? Well, here it is. Dec bin decimal to binary. You can put in whatever number you want in here, and it'll automatically give you the binary number. Why would you ask? Well, believe it or not, when it comes to databases, binaries is a big thing because they're a lot smaller numbers than decimals. But anyways, this concludes first part of the introduction to PHP. Again, we cover some of the functions in math, some of the functions in strings, variable types, logical operators, and how to display information, and concatenate strings, which is a little dot in between when you use the echo to print. I hope you liked the tutorial and you learned a little bit. My next tutorial is coming up in a few more days, will be part 2, and they will have the decision making, the if else, switch. I will go into arrays, and I will get into functions as well, and a few other surprises. So with that said, I hope you liked the video. Please like and share if you like it, and subscribe to my channel. Appreciate it a lot. Until next time, thank you very much.